Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of the Mardock Scramble trilogy, which consists of 3 Japanese anime films. The First Compression from 2010, the Second Combustion from 2011, and the Third Exhaust from 2012. Now each of these films is about an hour long, which sums to a 3-hour film total. So taking place in a futuristic city called Kamina City, a young prostitute is taken in by a notorious gambler. Now one night he abandons and attempts to murder her in a car explosion. However, she is rescued and transformed into a cyborg by a man named Dr. Easter. Afterward, an artificial intelligence in the form of a glowing yellow mouse, accompanies her to adapt to her new life. So she is trained to use the advanced technology fitted on her to defend herself against the gambler's attempts to have her killed in order to stop her from testifying against him. Now, Mardock Scramble, if there's one thing you have to understand about this particular trilogy, is that it is bursting with so much creativity and awesomeness that it provides a surprisingly unique viewing experience. It combines elements that have no business being in the same movie together. Alright? Now, I briefly mentioned the glowing yellow mouse, which, by the way, has some awesome technological abilities. And this character is introduced soon after the opening sequence, which is a gritty, violent, uncomfortable moment where a teenage prostitute gets beaten and almost murdered. And that's not all, because you have some other animals that make appearances later on, and I can wholeheartedly assure you that you will never see dolphins and sharks the same way again. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, almost unbelievably, the eccentric mix of gritty revenge violence, nudity, science fiction and technology, and cute fluffy mice is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of creativity here. I do not want to get into the plot details of the second and the third movies, mostly because there are so many surprises to be had, but I will say that if you enjoy lengthy gambling sequences that take place in a glitzy casino and showcase a battle of wits between the player and the dealer, then you're in for a real treat. Now, based on what little I've told you thus far, you may be wondering how a trilogy of films can introduce such wildly disparate elements and actually work. I mean, from what I've described, it seems like an utter mess, but I'm happy to say that they work wonderfully, because the script writing really does a good job of transitioning between these different elements in such a way that the storyline feels natural and illogical within the world that it creates. I would also say that the overall tone doesn't shift quite as much as you might think. So, yes, it has some very dark moments at times, but even the lighter scenes, like when the glowing yellow mouse cuddles with the girl, are expressed as more of kind of like a melancholy moment rather than a goofy humor moment. There's no crazy goofy humor that's thrown in or anything like it, and I think that helps to keep everything together and kind of maintain a consistent tone throughout. Now, the writing also creates some very interesting character interaction. The relationship between the girl and her fluffy mouse is actually very endearing, if you can believe it, and I did care about them as things progressed. There's also the battle of wits that I previously mentioned, and you get a sense of quality to the Mardock Scramble films because it seems like someone really kind of thought this stuff through and constructed some really nice sequences that are very memorable. Now, you're also probably thinking to yourself, wow, such an odd set of films probably had a limited budget because, there's not much chance of them making much money with something this weird. But I did search the internet myself, but I could not confirm the budget on these films in terms of the animation. What I can say is that it's obvious that these Mardock Scramble films had a healthy production behind them because the animation looks awesome. The animation in these films is very nice. Some of the detail and the use of color creates, I would say close to a visual spectacle, and it's beautiful to look at. So, man, it's very odd combination here. You have some stuff that's almost like borderline exploitative, then you have some quality suspense sequences, good character interaction, and really good production values, too. You kind of wonder who this film was made for. And I'm not sure if these were actually shown in theaters or not in Japan, but man, pretty impressive stuff. There really aren't a lot of criticisms that I could find for these films. I mean, obviously, if you have a problem with the mix of elements here, because it's kind of an odd mix of elements that I previously mentioned, then that's one thing. But I think that's one of the things that makes this trilogy so interesting to watch. I mean, I always feel like I'm so far behind on watching anime because there's so much of it that's produced, and I watch so many live action films, it's so hard to keep up with it. But, you know, I've seen a variety of crazy anime before, and these films really are pretty memorable, though. They really are. I will also say that the viewer will be forced to piece a few things together. These movies don't really explain every little thing, so the viewer is asked to figure some things out for themselves. Like, you know, it's nothing mind-blowing, but it can create some confusion. For example, the abilities of the technology that the protagonists use is really not that well defined. You know, they touch upon it, they explain it a little bit, but then when they get to moments where they need to use the technology, it just kind of happens. So you just got to kind of roll with it, you know what I mean? You're not always sure regarding the limits of their technology, you know what I mean? But, and the pacing is a tad bit slow at times, but overall, solid stuff. I really enjoy these films, and they represent why Japanese animation can get very unique at times, you know? Man, these films are really cool. I actually have them in my DVD collection, and I rewatch them fairly regularly. So it is widely available on DVD. The whole trilogy is. I don't think there's a box set available, but you can buy each of them separately. And definitely check these out. If you're into anime that's a bit gritty and adult, but also very creative and interesting, check it out. And as always, we'll see you next time.